my name's Emma Osborne. I'm the founder of a recruitment company called Citizen Kind, which was the world's first vegan recruitment consultancy. And I came to set that up having had a long career in recruitment, where I worked in London and then had moved to Singapore in 2011 and opened an office over there, and established a large corporate business out of Singapore covering Asia, and had been very successful. And then but after a while just felt like it was really quite unfulfilling, and realized that the companies that I was working with were also perhaps not aligned terribly well with how I felt about things and my values, and really the how I wanted people to be treated as employees as well. And so after much soul searching, I realized that I really just had to make a decision, and one way or the other. And so ended up traveling for a year, and went to all the different places in the world that I'd always wanted to, in the hope that the answer of how to find this fulfillment would hit me in the face. And it didn't. So I came back, and even though I had a wonderful year, was still really none the wiser. So having come back then, I spent a long time playing with different ideas, and I expect we'll talk about this a bit longer, but essentially I realized that recruitment had been a skill that I developed, and was actually going to be really necessary, as people had the same feelings that I did and wanted to align their values with their work and their careers. And so that's exactly what I realized the world needed, was a vegan recruitment consultancy. So having looked and discovered there wasn't one, I thought I'd better create one. So joining me is a very nice chap called Damoy Robertson, who has had a very different sort of journey into a vegan career. He is the founder of The Vegan Review, which is a new independent news site, which you might or might not have come across yet. And he has found his way there through entrepreneurship, and but having started out as a professional basketball player. So quite a different sort of journey to mine. And so I thought we would spend time today, he and I, talking about kind of how we made those decisions, and going through together, talking about our stories, really. So I'm just going to see if I can split my screen with him. He is the Vegan Review on this call.
Hey. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. A bit discombobulated because I thought the call was a tad bit later. So good to join you all today.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being able to join us despite the slight late notice on things. So
yeah, that's fine.
I've just introduced you, but do you want to just introduce yourself, Damoy?
Sure.
Do a better job.
Sure. So first of all, hi everyone. I hope you're all having a great weekend. I'm Damoy, founder of The Vegan Review. The Vegan Review was launched earlier on this year. It's a multimedia platform which gives you sort of the latest news, insights, features on all things veganism. The main reason we launched The Vegan Review was to basically give vegan leaders, business owners, everyday people a voice and a platform where they can, have their stories told, essentially. I've been vegan now for 1.5 years, and my partner has been vegan for 5 years, and she pretty much, explained to me what the benefits are, not only for oneself, but for everyone else and all living things on the planet. Since then, I decided that, the best way that I can contribute to to basically, you know, the movement and the world is to actually help by contributing everyone else's story. As Emma did mention, I come from a basketball background. I've played basketball all my life, played professionally for most of it. I'm 29 now. At the age of 25, I decided that basketball was no longer for me, and actually got a job in sales working for Coca-Cola. And as many people know, you know, once you start to look at things that fuel you personally, and from an ethical standpoint, exactly, many jobs didn't really align with, you know, with my beliefs anymore. Long before I went vegan, I just found that I couldn't really wake up in the morning with like a real purpose. So I launched my own marketing agency a year after actually entering the corporate world, funnily enough. And yeah, it was a complete roller coaster. But I found, you know, that you can pretty much learn as you go. So it's basically 4 years of learning on the fly, running a marketing agency that did very well. And yeah, earlier on this year, I decided to make the jump to actually launch my own platform and push it out there.
That's amazing. And so I kind of wanted to delve a bit deeper into some of the decision making. So, I mean, what gave you the confidence after just a year in the kind of corporate world to be able to then make that switch to setting up your own marketing agency?
Sure. So that's a very interesting question. The confidence in me came from seeing that everyone was just trying to figure it out. No matter what level it was, it could be, you know, the CEO of a company. I worked very closely with a lot of assistant directors at Coca-Cola, and I learned that the learning process is no different from what they go through to what I would go through. So I just thought, you know, I have my knowledge and everything else is going to come as I go along. So I just thought, why not? That was like the main thing. It was just like, why not just do it and go for it?
Absolutely. I think that's a very astute observation. And I think it's really easy to look around you at other people and think, oh, they've got it all sorted out because, you know, they've got a really impressive job title, or they earn a lot of money, or they have a big team. But I think particularly with the world of marketing, it is all moving so quickly as technology and social media and everything is changing, that you're right, everybody is just trying to figure it out. And I think that obviously also applies in lots of other fields too. So what exactly were you doing at Coca-Cola before?
Yeah, exactly what you just mentioned as well. You know, it's so easy from the outside looking in to say, this person has it figured out, that person has a lot of savings, and, you know, this company has just turned over X amount, but really you don't, you know, none of us really have a clue. For Coca-Cola, I was working in field sales. So I was managing an area, and I had about 120 accounts that I had to look after. So that basically entailed working with, you know, local shopkeepers to making sure that they were stocking the right products, and basically offering them service to actually promote Coca-Cola's products at the forefront of their store. Within that, probably around 2 months in, I moved, still in my same role, but I worked heavily in strategy. And I helped to sort of roll out key working processes for the field sales team at Coca-Cola.
Wow. So, I mean, that's quite different to marketing agency. Why did you decide to set up your own agency versus going to work in an agency first and maybe getting the experience, which is perhaps what most people would choose to do?
Yeah. So working in strategy, I realized that probably 90% of marketing is having a really good strategy. After that, I actually applied to work at a startup, and whilst going through the entire process, again, I realized that not everyone has it figured out. So my marketing agency actually started out first as a sales development agency, where I would basically give people advice on sales development. And within that, you know, we would help people sort of structure their emails, help them find leads in different places. And a lot of that naturally transitioned over into direct marketing. And then as I started learning sort of, you know, how to set up campaigns on Google and Facebook, it naturally transitioned over into marketing.
I think that's really interesting because I know certainly for me, when I was setting up Citizen Kind, that I had a sort of 6-month period where I really threw around lots of ideas of exactly what it was I was going to do and what it was going to look like and what my offering was going to be. And in the end, it really happened very organically that I landed on recruitment, actually. In fact, I started off by saying anything but recruitment. That's the thing that I don't want to do anymore. Because I spent my whole career doing it, and I felt like I had more to bring the world than just recruitment. But and so I'd 10 days making vegan ice cream and making 4 different of ice cream, and back over those 10 days, over the course of the time, all of the flavors have been getting more and more savory, because actually I don't have a very sweet tooth. So it dawned on me that perhaps ice cream, if you're not really that much of a fan of ice cream or sweet things, maybe an ice cream business isn't the right thing to do. So I took my really expensive ice cream maker back to the shop, and actually, even 2 years later, we've still got some of the products I made in the freezer, because some of them really weren't very nice. But wasabi pea was the winner with coconut milk. That was quite delicious, but you can't really build a business on one ice cream flavor. But the point of the story is really because I feel like sometimes you have to go through all these sort of different ideas to be able to hit upon something that you can run with. And then even that doesn't have to be what you end up with, but it's a start. It's a place to start, isn't it? And that sort of forward motion, I think sometimes is all you need to just get yourself going and then figure it out later.
Yeah.
So I've just seen there's a question. So for folks who want something that you love doing, or something for which there's lots of demand, i.e. want something that has better chances for success, profit, or a good salary. Do you want to go take that first, Amoy?
Yeah. My motto is, and I know it's very tough, but for somebody that, comes from the background that I come from, it's a really tough motto to adapt. I think happiness is first, and being fulfilled is always going to be first. And I always believe that the money is going to follow. And I'm somebody, I believe if you put the correct energy out into the universe, it would always come back to you. So to that point, it's always for me, what would you see yourself doing for the next 5 years that will make you really happy? And then I think you can focus on being the best at it that you can. And naturally, people are always going to pay you for value. I would say, once you go after the money first, you're going to wake up and just not be sort of enthusiastic about what you're doing. And I've done both. And I can honestly say, if you enjoy something, you're going to be great at it. You're going to spend your time working hard at it. And then naturally, you will become an expert in your field, and people pay you what you deserve to be paid for it. So definitely, I would say start with the passion.
I just want to say that I wish I was that wise when I was 29 years old. So
thank you, Kurt.
What you just said is something that I say often to people, and it's based on my own pain. And so to me, when I'm in my passion, not only am I more effective at what I'm doing, but the results, I get out of the result business and just keep doing the next right thing. And I'm more effective. Everything ends up working out better, and there's zero fight. And so, just wanted to say kudos to what you just shared. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot. And yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think a lot of that pain actually came from basketball. I worked so hard to get to a level where I would actually, be able to compete at a high level. And by the time I got there, I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I couldn't actually be who I wanted to be and express who I wanted to, that person and the skills that I had, because I just didn't enjoy it. So from that point on, I just moved forward with, if you don't enjoy it, leave it alone.
definitely. And I think the thing is you spend so much of your life at work that I think there isn't enough emphasis put on, you know, what you really love to do early on in your career, when you're making those focus on education and your aptitude. But I think, and what gets left behind is really what you love to do. And I think if you're a writer and you love to write, then staying close to roles where writing plays a big part, that, you know, makes sense, because you've also got to choose a job where on the worst day in that job, you're still going to enjoy it, because every job has a bad day. But what you don't want is for every day to feel like that, because you're doing things that you don't enjoy. When I'm interviewing people, I ask, you know, when one of my questions is always, you know, over the course of a day, what are the activities that you're doing in your job? Rather than just rely on, you know, the kind of skills and keywords and all of that stuff. Actually, the heart of what someone's doing is important. And when people break down their day and how they spend their time at work, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting exercise for both, I think, because it helps them realize the things that they want to take out of their job and leave behind in moving to something new, but also where they want to focus on. I think the other thing with this is also, there's a tendency to, or there has been a tendency in the past for managers to want to create staff who are more well-rounded generalists, and so we'll focus on making you better at the things perhaps you're not as good at. I think things are now changing, and there seems to have been more published recently around actually focusing on your strengths and developing those, and becoming more of a specialist is actually a wiser approach to having a very successful career. Because, I mean, it sort of makes sense, because if you think about it, why would we want to have, you know, a sea full of generalists who are all quite good at some things but not so good at others, but no, we want specialists to reach up high and be the experts in their area, so then we can all have those people collaborating and be in their flow. And this kind of idea of specialism, I think, is the right way to think about careers in the future. I guess for you, Damoy, when you then stepped away from your marketing agency, how long had you been vegan at that point?
I had been vegan for 8 months at that point.
Wow, 8 months.
Yeah. And it's exactly to the point that you made before, and exactly what Kurt mentioned as well.
That's amazing.
The time before that,
the signal's a bit dicey, but it's because we've got the tail end of a hurricane hitting the UK today, so the signal's a bit dicey.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
If you can hear me.
Okay. Yeah, Emma, there's a slight lag, just a slight lag.
Right.
But Damoy, we can hear you fine.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
Yes. Weather. Go ahead, Damoy, it's me.
All right. So I was vegan for 8 months, and it was sort of a build up before that, because way before I went vegan, as you know, probably most of you do, you go down a rabbit hole and you start to learn so many different things, not just about, you know, veganism, but just about the state of the world in general. And I started to look at, you know, making money very differently. I thought that both could be aligned. I think you can do good and you can make the amount of money that you need to you know, live your life and to support your family. And at the end of last year, which is when I decided to just launch a vegan review, I kind of had sort of a super reflective moment where I said, if I don't draw this line right now, I don't know if I ever am, because the more money you make, the more you're going to want to make. The bigger clients you get, you're going to want the next bigger clients. So I just drew a line in the sand. I said, you know what, you've got this opportunity now, just do it. And I literally, I messaged about 50 students on LinkedIn, asked them whether or not they would like to write for me. I think 8 replied, and those are the 8 writers that I started with. Submitted them all pieces. My developer that I used to work with at my agency, I said, hey, can you put this website together for me? I got those people in, and we launched the website in February with, I think, 30 news stories on there. And we just grew from there, and I never really looked back because of that single reason. I think if I had, said, okay, I need X amount to launch it, or I need to make X amount of money, I think that goalpost would have always been moved.
Yeah, like focusing on the money is dangerous, isn't it? I think if you focus on the doing, and you do it well, the money will come. And that's something that I talk to people a lot about when I'm interviewing them and talking to them about their options, is really taking the money, take the money out of it for a minute and then focus on, so what is it that is really important to you in terms of your ambition for the future for yourself, without taking the material things out of it.
Yeah. And I would jump in there just briefly, Emma, because I used to, watch talks and watch videos, and people used to always say, it's not about the money. And I come from a background, where there was no financial stability growing up. When I launched my agency, I had no savings. I actually borrowed £5,000 from a friend of mine. So it's, when I used to watch people say it's not about the money, I just used to kind of roll my eyes and be like, okay, whatever, you probably got a ton of it. But this is coming from somebody that didn't have any of it.
I think the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't have any of it when, I launched my agency. And everything that I do up to this day is still very, very lean. So I think if you make the right calculations and you bet on yourself a little bit, I think things will always pay off. So I hate to say always, it's not about the money. You should go with your passion. I understand it's very hard. People have bills, people have families, they have commitments. But this is literally coming from somebody who has started everything that I've launched with next to nothing and just slowly built up and just bet on myself a little bit.
Totally. And I think it is obviously a position of privilege to be able to even consider these things, because, like you say, everybody's got completely different personal environments that they're in, and to be able to contemplate these types of things is definitely a very privileged position. I think, having said that, I think that it's balancing the risk. So if you feel like it would actually create more stress in your life to remove a stable and secure salary, as much as anyone has a stable and secure salary in COVID. I mean, I feel like everybody's jobs are suddenly under the microscope somewhat. But if it feels like, even if just thinking about the idea of walking away from a salary scares you and makes you feel really uncomfortable, then your entrepreneurship probably isn't for you. But that doesn't mean that you can't make a change. And in fact, the majority of people probably won't be good entrepreneurs, because 90% of startups fail, and it's a really stressful, hard thing to do successfully. And but what makes those startups, that 10%, what makes them great is they have brilliant people that they hire within their teams to help them along that journey. And that's where you can, as someone working in the corporate world wanting to make a shift, that would be the area that I would be looking at, for anyone on this call that would apply to. Look at, obviously vegan food is kind of a really obvious place to look at, but also there's, think about the things that you really care about. If you're not a massive foodie, then obviously we need to veganize everything in the world, and there are people out there doing all sorts of things. I mean, they're making leather from cactus and turning it into handbags. You know, it's whatever you're passionate about is obviously going to help you make that transition, because you'll stand out as someone who can really back that startup and can be an ambassador for them, as well as obviously doing a job, and feel like you're part of a journey as well, helping an entrepreneur. How many, out of interest, how many of the people that applied to be writers were vegan?
So we had 50% of them were actually vegan. And my policy is with the Vegan Review, our internal team, we're vegan. So now I've got 3 full-time employees, which is even just crazy to say. And the freelancers that we use both vegans and non-vegans, because the message that we're trying to get out and what we're trying to do is we're not trying to have a closed-off platform. When I was not vegan, I used to look at some of the vegan platforms and get sort of really scared and say, look, I feel like you guys are sort of pointing a finger at me a bit. So now we have both vegans and non-vegans because we want to tell both sides of the story. We're always speaking from compassion. We're always speaking from, a good ethical standpoint. But I feel like if we had a team of only vegans, we wouldn't really see the other side and we wouldn't be able to translate the message the other way. So with our writers, our internal team are all vegan. And then with our freelancers, we have about a 50-50 split.
Wow, that's great. And I guess, for are all of those people, or were they already writers, or are they people who are able to read?
So we've got, luckily enough, I've been very fortunate to have our managing editor has actually just finished his journalism degree. So he comes from a background of, writing for his university, but not a lot of professional experience. And a lot of the freelancers, actually, some of them have no writing experience whatsoever. But someone will submit a piece, and if we like it, we'll definitely give someone a try. So we've got a good split of those as well.
So potentially, if there's anyone on this call that fancies themselves as a writer or has done a bit of...
Oh, lost Emma for a bit there. But yes, if there is anyone on this call that is interested in writing, but not only writing, if there's anyone that's interested in, cooking, whatever it may be, then we are building a full platform that is open to all of that. So just shoot me an email. I'll be sure to include it and give it to Emma at the end of this call as well, so she can send it to everyone. But not only that, we like to tell personal stories. So if you would like to write about your personal story and your journey, then you can write it, you can send it to me, send in a picture, and we'll definitely get it on the website. Those stories have actually been some of the most read stories on the platform. It's people who might be, transitioning to veganism, people who might be vegan and might have, issues at work or wherever. We tell everyone's stories. So yeah, if there's anything that anyone would like to, push out there, then just simply send me an email and we get it done.
Amazing. I've also just realized that we have someone else on this call already who has made the transition from corporate life into vegan corporate life. Kurt, would you like to join our conversation around making the switch?
Sure. I mean, I hadn't planned on it, but yeah, I had a 27-year career in investment banking, and woke up in a lot of what was just described as what I went through. I had a very successful career and what I thought were all the toys and zero life purpose or happiness inside. And so I did work on myself around that to figure out why that was, because what I'd been told my whole life was he who dies with the most toys wins. And it wasn't working out real well for me. And so anyway, long story short, when I found veganism, that checked all the boxes for me. I'm wired to give back against animal suffering. So it started for me in animal welfare. And that was before this into the food industry really was coordinated. And I flew around the country looking at ways to be more effective in my philanthropy and as a donor to the nonprofits. And just organically, everything continued to come together. And really, for me, it was when Bruce Friedrich left Farm Sanctuary and started the Good Food Institute. That's what got my interest level up a bunch, because I suddenly saw this opportunity. And the way my mind works is, how can I be more effective? How can I be more effective? Because I've got a real numbers financial brain. And and so I got close to Bruce and watched what was going on with GFI, and finally the business side was coming up or developing so quickly. I wanted in. So that's where Clear Current Capital was born from. Was just an opportunity for me to use my gifts and my experience in the financial world to start a venture capital fund that was solely targeted for effect and to reinvent the food industry. Because to me, we had spent years trying to do bottom up to and enlighten everyone and make everyone more aware of what was going on in the food system, and encouraging everyone to go vegan, but it really wasn't moving the needle. I mean, we're still 2% of the population or thereabouts. So how about we go top down and change the food system? And I don't care anymore about your personal interests. I just want to bring something that tastes as good or better, is at price or cheaper, and is convenient. But it's a lot of work. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is basically build an industry, a big one, and give those options, get those things into the food system as quickly as possible, and then make it better than the food industry that we're reinventing. So it's very exciting, and talking about that inside out, to me, everything's an inside job. And I couldn't be happier being completely in this, in every facet of my life. But I'm glad I didn't try to force it. It just wasn't there in the beginning. And so, now it's like, it's better than I could have dreamed of, 8 years ago or whatever. And the speed at which everything is moving and to be able to work side by side with people that inspire me, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, timing is everything, isn't it?
Yep.
And I feel like right now, obviously, almost despite everything else that's going on in the world, the vegan industry seems like it's really booming, and it will continue to do so. But there has got to be a supply of talented and mission-driven individuals making the switch. That's what's got to happen. That was really my idea, I suppose, behind Citizen Kind, was just that, what if we could get the best brains in the world, the ones that are off now thinking about space and Facebook and
Yep.
all of those really clever people, what if we could get them all working on vegan stuff? I mean, how amazing would that be? How fast would we get where we're going?
Yeah, and as it matures and grows, it widens out, so there's more white space. And to me, we need every type of brain and every type of, we're all wired differently. And so, like what was talked about earlier, the most important thing to me is for each of us to have that self-awareness, to figure out, okay, what really speaks the deepest to me? What do I want as my effect in life? And I was later in life, so I'm thinking, if not now, when? And so, I feel very grateful it all did happen, because I know plenty of people it didn't. And they died angry old men, and I didn't want to be that guy. But, to back to your point, I mean, there's so much expansion, and there's, now it's like the successes of the plant-based food movement and what's getting ready to happen with fermentation and cell-based cultivated meat. The science brains are coming in from that aspect. Fermentation is sort of a hybrid. It's bringing in all kinds of its hybrids that are coming in from the medical industry. And it's just really exciting to watch everybody, especially the vegan side of the movement, that wants it deeply. And so for me, it's, I'm kind of in a bubble, because, you know, I started a new fund, so we're trying to build a firm around the successes of our fund one to bring a fund two and then grow a firm around that so I can have a greater effect within this space with the group that I'm working with. But we're also working with a number of other aligned VC funds and private equity groups, and I'm trying to plant seeds with big family offices and folks out there and use my experience to help validate the space. So there's all kinds of really interesting things going on. And in the meantime, there's books and there's movies and there's the Vegan Review and new platforms that are coming out there that are just naturally, organically planting these seeds. And so what's coming into my email box, dropping out of the sky is also very inspiring compared to what it was like 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think jumping on Kurt's point, I think veganism is seen as like this streamlined industry almost. And, you know, it's not, it's like everything. It's food, it's technology, it's media, it's so many different areas. And all of those areas are expanding just before, like right before our eyes, you know, like a search on LinkedIn, even if you just type in vegan on LinkedIn, you'll see so many different industries, so many different people. So it's just, yeah, really inspiring, like the growth, even since I've been vegan. I currently live in the Netherlands, and I go into the gym and there's a huge poster that says, you know, you can't get protein from plants. What a huge lie. Scan this to find out. And this is in the middle of my gym. I'm just like, how insane is this? So it's just growing at such a great rate.
Totally. And I can see we've got a question. As a vegan recruitment agency, what skill set or job function are you seeing the most need for? Actually, that's quite an interesting question, because often I think when you've got a growing industry, you've really got a need for everyone. For, you know, in all sort of different role types and levels and skills. I think part of the you know, the timing is obviously crucial, and so one thing that I think people can do to help themselves identify, you know, where in the vegan industry should they look for a role is ask themselves the question, you know, what is it that I can bring? What is it that I'm really good at? That if I were to be in the vegan industry and I were doing it, I can make an impact and I can make a difference, or I would be better than other people at doing that. Because I think it's almost, you know, it'd be a job that doesn't currently exist. And so it could be hard to recognize. And so it's actually more sensible to think, what can I bring? And then take that to the people that you would like to work for. Go and approach them, go and talk to them, or come talk to me and I'll go and talk to them for you. Because that's yeah, having that passion and enthusiasm for the brand and for the company or their mission, having that alignment as well is also really important. So so yeah, it's sort of almost a backwards answer. but yeah, I can see Gail, you've also asked, what are the best resources to find vegan jobs? Well, Citizenkind, we realised that because the companies we work with sometimes don't even advertise the job, but will set an extra section on our website where you can register your details regardless of whether or not there's a job available. So then we can do just that, help you identify what those skills are and where to focus on and who to talk to because you love them, and who to talk to who you might not have even come across yet, and then make those connections happen. So so you can, you know, start to explore and see what's out there. Kurt, do you have any recommendations for where to look for vegan jobs?
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to be on this call. There's a lot of talk, and so, you know, I started the fund, and I'm still the only full-time employee of the fund. So I wanted to be the busboy and the waiter for, you know, a while, and just figure out all the nuances in VC and private equity. Since I'm coming from the investment banking world, I feel like I've done a lot of that, and now it's like just total overwhelm. So that's another reason why I want to grow the fund, is so I can hire some support. What's being talked about by others in my group is job boards. You know, I would love to put a page up that I just can't do it. I just don't have the bandwidth available to run a jobs board on my website. But if I could find, you know, if Fund 2 gets funded and I got the budget, then yes, we are moving in that direction, because I have 12 portfolio companies right now, and all of them are growing. And so, you know, again, back to that, what's your passion, what really speaks to you? You know, we're looking for operators, we're looking for salespeople, but you know, to me, still, we're such a small, and it's such a new space that we can afford to be choosy, because there's still a lot of vegans out there that want in. And to me, the vegans will walk through walls to make something happen. And so if I can find a founder or a new company that's you know, their founders are vegan, they totally get why they're doing this, and it's for a purpose that's bigger than them individually, those are the companies that I want to back. And so we're still looking for those types of folks that are employees that like others have shared, their current job just isn't speaking to them. And if they can, you know, tap into that passion inside, you know, it almost doesn't, the salary secondary to having that purpose in their job. And so that's what excites me about this space, is that we've got the next Beyond Meat or 2 or 3 that looks like they're coming up. And so there's, you know, it's so early in this game that anyone who can have that self-awareness and is willing to take that kind of risk to come in can get into that leadership role and really make a difference. But we need the foundation and the structure to be able to put it together and get the word out. So that's the other thing that I'm really looking for, is how to build, you know, that so that people can access what's needed in this space and feel comfortable about reaching out to the right people.
Totally. And I suppose anecdotally, one thing that I've noticed is that where you have a vegan company and they're looking to hire people, actually being vegan can give you a head start on your competitors for that role, in that, well, depending upon the role, of course, but take something like social media, for example. You know, if you are working with a vegan brand, then obviously having an in-depth knowledge and understanding of veganism and being able to handle whatever any troll can throw at you, whether it's a, you know, criticism on palm oil or a question about animal testing or deforestation or whatever. Obviously having all of that depth of knowledge at your fingertips is going to be really useful and put you ahead of someone who might be a very well qualified social media manager and maybe have 5 years experience more than you in that role, and maybe it's you haven't even done it before, but actually potentially you could be better qualified to do that than they are.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick, I think both sides of the desk can you know, can read it, because to me it's an authentic connection. Like I can tell in 10 seconds if that other person's vegan or not. I don't even have to ask them outright most of the time, because I can tell by the way they use their words. And if I ask them what they're most passionate about, the vegan's like boom, 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 because they've already done that work on themselves to figure out, okay, how am I most effective at working as a nonprofit or handing out leaflets or whatever. Whereas other people, it's still that profit oriented thing. It's things and stuff, not from the inside out. And so that's what's so cool about being in the middle of this space is I mean, the authentic connections that you make and how fast it happens and how well everyone works together. Not even close to what I gave up in my investment banking career. I mean, it was all a money grab over there, and you know, you're as good as your last ticket kind of thing. And so it's very nourishing for me to be doing this work now, knowing what I knew from a very long career in the kind of the opposite spectrum. So yeah, it's and you know, that's going to change too. I mean, obviously we're getting a lot of press right now, and so there's, you know, there's a lot of startups that are coming. There's a lot of activity that's going on. So everybody has to kind of be careful, I think, too, about that, and just be aware that, you know, there's a lot of games being played out there, and just, you know, just ask the right questions and take your time.
Can I ask you guys one question that hits on an aspect of this topic we haven't talked about yet? You, Emma, may have heard this statistic that something like 3 out of 4 good jobs are never even posted, that they get filled through word of mouth or connections, networking. So I know of a lot of people who are earnestly looking for vegan opportunities, and they patiently go through the boards and apply for jobs, go through the process, and nothing happens. So how important in your mind, all three of you, is the schmoozing and networking, where you just get to know the decision makers and put it out there that you're looking for a job, and kind of get those jobs before they even get posted or even considered?
I mean, I think for me, it's less kind of schmoozing. It's more about, I think it's more about showing people why they should hire you. Anyone can send an email with a CV attached, with a bit of blurb, and it's not exciting. It's not probably not going to get people's attention. Similarly, you know, connecting with someone on LinkedIn, you know, unless you actually do anything with it, you know, what's the point? I think getting active on LinkedIn is a really easy way for people to increase their profile, increase their understanding of who's doing what in the space, and also help people identify who they like, because, you know, not all vegan companies are the same, and they don't all think the same, and they're not run by the same sorts of people. And so, especially, you've got not-for-profit and you've got for-profit. So figuring out who you like and what resonates with you and whose tone of voice feels like your tone of voice can really help you cut through the volume. And then, so don't send the same letter to everyone. You know, be laser-like in your approach. It makes much more sense. It's far more sensible for your emotional safety, because it means you're not getting rejected by 200 people. You only reached out to 3. So, but because you only reached out to 3, it means you've got more time then to invest in those approaches and make them really meaningful. I saw a really lovely example of this, where a graphic designer was looking for work with a company called it's This Is Not Chicken, This Is Not Bacon, and she'd mocked up her CV on their packaging, and so it looked like, you know, where it said, so it was like, this is Anna, and then, you know, she, in the ingredients were her skills, and, you know, she'd really put some time and effort into it, and it made a real impact. And she posted it on LinkedIn. She didn't just send them an email with it. She also posted it on LinkedIn to say, hey, I really love you guys, I really love what you're doing, and I really want to work for you. So, hi. And of course, you know, I don't think they had a vacancy at that moment for her, but I suspect that quite a lot of their competitors would have seen that and thought, oh, I quite like the look of that, maybe we'll hire her. So I think get creative and think about how you can sell yourself in a way that is going to get someone's attention. And then if they do come back and say no, just keep going back to them, because one of the times it'll be the right time. Not every week, but, you know, every 3 months or so, just check back in with them. I'm still here. I still love you. Can I come work for you yet? No? Okay, I'll wait another 3 months. You know, it doesn't need to be a sales pitch. It can just be a nice casual chat. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I'll jump in there on Emma's point and Kurt's point as well, on that question. So everyone that works for me now, only one came from an actual job posting. And the reason why she stood out in the job posting was exactly what Emma said. Her approach was laser focused, like the cover letter was just so aligned with what I was doing. I felt like I was talking to myself when I read it. And then it was just super authentic, as Kurt mentioned, and everyone else, even my accountant. I've now got a new accountant who approached me on LinkedIn. She's also vegan. She aligns so much with what I was doing. I think I sort of picked her brains for about 2 months before I actually hired her. My manager and editor, he actually volunteered for me for about 2 months. And when the role was available, he naturally moved into that role. So I would say, let people know what you can offer. Let them know what, why you would want to work for them or with them. And as Emma said, maybe there's not something open right now, but I've probably got, a backlog of 3 full-time writers I'm ready to hire tomorrow, or when the roles open up, just because people have done just that. They've written to me, they've connected with me. I've said, wow, like, you're really amazing. Like, if you could just hold out for about 6 months, we'd love to take you on. So I think it's a case of putting yourselves out there, really getting the reason across why you'd want a position. And I think everything else is naturally just going to flow, as Kurt mentioned. Within this industry, everything is sort of, although everyone is in business, emotions are attached. So people are naturally going to go with their emotions as well.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to all of that. Oops. Breaking up, Emma.
To say, if you're not sure yet, if you want to test the water, if you have free time, that is, all of these vegan companies money, and so they will willingly accept anyone who wants to volunteer to do things. Volunteering obviously needs to be defined and needs to be, I suppose, for a require an element of commitment from you. Just because you're not getting paid, the company still needs to know that you're going to deliver whatever it is that you say you're going to deliver. So it is still important that you show up as though you were being paid. But just like Demoy said, if you're doing that sort of volunteering, then as and when positions come available, you're going to be top of the list for someone that they want to have come onto the team in a paid position. And it means you can test the water and figure out where you fit and where you can add most value. It might be that you're, I don't know, managing a team, or and so perhaps in a startup you would be great as a consultant, and so maybe you go and work for a vegan consultancy rather than for I suppose a vegan company in and of them. You don't get to find out. So just go for it and dip your toe. So I guess advice that you would give someone who was fishing.
Sorry, Emma, I didn't catch the end of that.
Sorry, what advice would you have for someone on this call who might be thinking, okay, I'm going to make the transition?
I would say the number one thing is you don't want to jump to a company just because, they are a vegan company, because as Kurt and Emma mentioned, there are so many different things going on. It can be finance. Some companies are heavily for profit, some are non-profit. So I would definitely say test the waters out first. Speak to the founders. A lot of companies now, even the ones that are getting the investments, are really small still. Speak to somebody that works there as well. That will be a big one. And if you feel like that company is going to be aligned with you, maybe dedicate an hour or two to working with that company and working with the people in that company, just seeing if it is aligned. Because one thing that, I would not suggest is to, just because, oh, this company is great, they're vegan, or they have a vegan label, to just say, right, I'm going to go for it. Because you might find that some of the things that you're experiencing in your current roles, in previous roles, might still be the same. So I would say get a real feel for, who you want to work with and the companies that you like to work with, and then potentially just test the waters out. That would be my number one advice. And don't be afraid to give. When I say give, every single thing that I've ever done, from my agency to the Vegan Review, we always show what we can do. So at first I started actually working with companies for free. Same thing when I advertise inside of the Vegan Review, we've putting up free adverts on the website. while we're testing out different revenue models, we always give away freebies to show our value. And then we use those as our case studies to move forward with other companies. And I think within a job environment, it's the exact same thing. You know, if you're in marketing and you want to get into marketing for a vegan company, maybe approach a smaller company, say, hey, do you mind if I help you guys out with your marketing here and there, build up your portfolio, whatever it may be. And then you have that sort of, you have that experience to say, look, this is what I've done. And then you can showcase it to the world and somebody will definitely pick you up.
Totally. What about you, Kurt?
I was just thinking about just the current market conditions, that given all of the uncertainties and headwinds from COVID and, you know, how nervous founders are and just everyone, it's just because of everything that's going on right now. It's a difficult time. And so, you know, depending upon what you're driven by and what your experiences are, you know, I would consider even deeper starting your own company, just from the standpoint as everything's going to be risky. I think hiring practices are going to be more difficult for a while because balance sheets and projections are more difficult to put out there and do it accurately. So I think the jobs market's going to be pretty choppy for a while, but the demand, especially in the space that I'm in, isn't going away, and the momentum is continuing. So, you know, again, it's if, you know, just consider it. And again, I think any of us that are in the space that have taken the plunge, there's a lot of resources and there's a lot of founders that want to help. So whether that's help by connecting or help by, you know, business or you know, just kind of coaching along with lessons that we've learned through pain, happy to do so. But I think that when we come through all of this, the plant-based food market is going to be even stronger than it was before.
Definitely. Let's hope so. I think my advice is kind of in line with Kurt's, really, is that, you know, we've talked about sort of taking action, but I suppose the flip side of that is also be patient. It is about timing. The world is in chaos. If you are in currently a steady, stable, secure job where you have a salary coming in and you don't hate it, then leaving that right now is probably not a very good idea. So use this time instead to work on yourself. And so really interrogate yourself in terms of your ambitions, where you want to be, why you want to be there, what the future looks like. Really design it through, you know, asking yourself these hard questions. So then you're in a position to be able to make that move. And also think about maybe what the opportunities are in your current organization for you to maybe get involved in some of the activities that perhaps you'd like to do more of, and see how you can advocate internally for veganism, as obviously we talk about with vegan leaders, and we have a coaching program, if you haven't already seen, where and a playbook to help support you in doing those endeavors. But it is about timing, and currently it's not a great time economically to be making a big move, but take the time instead to figure out what the right move will be. And even if you don't feel like entrepreneurship is quite the right thing, or maybe you feel like there's another skill set you need, often I feel like founders are either very creative and passionate, and so then lack the financial or commercial nous that you need to be able to make a business work, or the other way around. Maybe you're the one with the commercial and financial bones but don't have the great idea. You know, look for a co-founder, spend this time you know, looking and posting on forums and reading comments on social media, and see if you can find someone who you think might be interested in setting something up together. Certainly I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, but being patient is my definite number one advice. But that brings us on to the hour. So anything else to add before we wrap up? No? Apologies for my signal during this, but it's been so lovely to be joined by you all, and thank you, Kurt and Demoy, for joining us and sharing with us your experiences, and may you all be able to find a vegan job one day.
Yeah,
Take care and stay safe, everyone.